So today we're going back to basics, how to write fiction for beginners. Whether you've been nursing a story for years or you just decided to put pen to paper, this episode is for you. So let's start at the beginning, what fiction writing is all about. So fiction in its most basic forms is about creating worlds and characters that captivate and engage readers. But where do you start? How do you take the nebulous ideas from your head and turn them into structured, compelling stories? Let's find out. So every story starts with an idea, but an idea alone isn't enough. You need to develop it, you need to nurture it. Start by asking yourself, what if? What if an ordinary person found a magical object? What if someone wakes up in a place and doesn't recognize it? These what ifs questions are the seeds of your story. And once you have an idea, it's time to start thinking about structure. And a basic story structure includes an introduction, rising action, a climax, a falling action, and a resolution. And think of that as like the plot points as the skeleton for your story. I actually made a video about the 7 plot point system, and I will link the video in the description box if you're interested. So check that one out. So now that you have your seed, you need to develop your story a little bit further. You need to think about how you can develop the concept for your story. And the story concept is a vital piece if you want to create a thrilling and exciting novel. And this idea comes from Larry Brooks' book, Story Engineering. I really recommend it if you're just starting out to write with writing books. It's, has a lot of good content, as you can see. But a concept is essentially an idea that adds a unique twist to a basic premise, and it reveals, it elevates it into something original and compelling. It's what makes your story stand out, and it is what will hook the reader. Think of it not just as what your story is about, but as the promise of what is to come. A promise that hooks your readers right from the start. So when you're trying to come up with a concept, you can ask yourself things like, how can I make this different? How can I make this much more original? You can also ask the what ifs question. So if you find a what if that leaves you with like 100 what ifs afterwards, then you've found a great concept that will keep the readers so hooked that, they can't put the book down. For instance, instead of writing a simple love story, what if the lovers come from parallel universes where one's actions invisibly affect the other world? Let's move on and talk a little bit about characters. So characters are at the center of each story. Your characters should be as real as possible, so it's important that you try to make them three-dimensional, try to, make sure that they have both positive and negative sides to them, that they have some internal conflict that they're struggling with, and so that they're flawed and complex and most importantly relatable. And you can do this by starting by creating character sketches. Who are your characters? What do they want to achieve? Where do they come from? What are their goals, and what's stopping them from getting their goals? These questions will help you understand their motivation and how it will also drive the plot forward. Now that you've nailed your characters, let's talk a little bit about the setting of your story. So setting isn't just where the story takes place, it also makes sure that it's the right tone and mood for the entire story. In some cases, setting can also act as a character in itself. That Dan Brown works a lot like this. He chooses the locations where his story is set because them in themselves are so interesting that they're basically characters. So whether your story is set in a city or in a quiet village, your world should be very immersing. Start by describing your setting with all senses and try to use show, don't tell, because that will make it a lot more engaging for us as readers. Now you have all the basic building blocks that you need to start writing your story. So it's time for you to write your first draft. And this might seem like a daunting task. I know, I've been there myself a lot of times, but it doesn't have to be. When you write the first draft, it's so important that you know, just keep going. Stay creative, keep going forward. Even if you know, make a wrong turn, don't go back and try to edit it. Just keep writing and writing and writing. Because I think one mistake that a lot of people do here is that they start writing, then they go back and start editing like the first 1,000 words instead of moving forward. But then, you know, the first few chapters are so good that the following chapters are not that good, and it won't make sense. And it would be like you can't have both your creative side and your logical side on at the same time. You have to switch them. And when you write your first draft, you should just be creative. It's basically you telling yourself the story, and yeah, so try to create a writing routine that works for you. If you ask me, I definitely recommend that you write on a regular basis, because if you write, you know, every day or every week, you will still have the story fresh in mind, and you won't have to reread a bunch of pages before you start writing. For me, this is super important. I always need to, you know, write my first draft in quite a compact amount of time, because then I don't have to go back and reread everything. But yeah, your goal here is just to write, because you know, you can't edit a blank page, but you can edit a page full of words. You've got this. So in conclusion, writing fiction is a real adventure. It's about creating something out of nothing that a lot of people can relate to. And today we've covered the basics on how to write fiction, and this is just the beginning of your story. I would love to hear more about your progress and what you are writing or thinking about writing. So please let me know in the comments. It would really, really make my day, and good luck with your writing. Talk to you soon. Bye.